Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us over £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million every day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing 15 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's the subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a highly skilled, dedicated police unit.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
They're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, a fake insurance company that targets the elderly.
I think really you ought to write people.
No, well, we need to renew this today, and then it'll all come out in writing then, okay?
Yes.
Undercover filming lands a con man in the sin bin.
A further twist was that it was reported that he was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome.
And IFED carries out a raid on a suspect.
You're never sure exactly what you're going to find until you actually go through that door.
Where would we be without a good bit of TV? We're a nation addicted to our set-top boxes, and many of us rely on product insurance to protect us if anything goes wrong. So it's a good job there are people like Jonathan Stockton, who was determined to make sure none of us missed out on the shows we loved. He ran a Swansea-based company that came under the remit of trading standards Rees Harris.
The company was selling a service package, maintenance package. Sometimes it was called insurance, but basically it was a product that if you had a Sky system and it broke down, they claimed that they would come out and fix it between 2 and 6 hours.
Sounds like a great idea. A service that will have you back up and running, or rather lounging, within 6 hours. Except, guess what? Yep, it didn't exist.
The company operated by cold calling consumers, and the only information they had when they would cold call them is the consumer's name, address, and also their telephone number.
Despite the fact they had so little information on the customers, their sales patter was pretty convincing.
They gave the impression that they were Sky, they were phoning from Sky.
But it was a total fabrication. None of the companies that the bogus insurance company pretended to represent had anything to do with the scam.
We cover all the Sky in the Wales area. Sky Protect is the English, and it's Sky Direct then, which is the Scottish one.
Instead of duping insurance companies with fraudulent claims, Stockton had taken it to the next level by setting up a fake insurance company of his own that preyed on innocent people. The victims were carefully targeted, with fraudsters deliberately calling during the day to catch elderly and vulnerable people at home.
Some of the calls were very distressing to us listening, but it was more distressing listening to the consumer reacting to the way that they've been being treated.
Now, every year you do renew, it is going to get cheaper.
Now, do you remember who took this out?
Sorry?
This time last year,
Yes.
my husband was alive,
Right.
and so he would have done it.
Oh, right, okay. Well, yeah, as I said, last year you did pay £99 for the year's cover.
You hear these consumers being quite fast in not wanting to give their card details over the phone. However, they would then eventually fold and give their card details over to these sales staff who quite cunningly got it out of them.
I think really you ought to write people.
Oh, no, well, we need to renew this today, and then it'll all come out in writing then within the next few days, so you can read over there. So which card would you like to use today? Is it your debit card there?
With such an aggressive sales technique, many people were confused, hounded, and even intimidated into buying the fake insurance.
Their general tactic was to bully. So if they would get someone elderly on the phone, They would push and push. In some cases, it was quite disgusting the way the sales staff would actually speak to these elderly and vulnerable consumers.
I don't know who you are.
I just said 3 times I'm calling regarding your Sky Television.
Yeah, what's it regarding then? Sky Television, what are you on about there?
Right, so if I'm calling regarding your Sky Television, what would you think I'm calling regarding then?
Insurance? Maintenance?
Oh my...
A team of 20 scammers worked at the bogus insurance call centre. They showed no mercy to their victims, bullying people into handing over their money.
Good afternoon, how can I help you?
I've just come round to my father's house. Somebody's rung up asking to renew the Sky. You've just rung up and asked him for a one-off payment of an 80-year-old man, a one-off payment of £89 to protect something that you don't even protect already?
Yes, we do.
You do not?
It was fraud on an industrial scale. Among the 7,500 customers targeted by the group was Carol Oatey.
Well, I was cold called out of the blue. I think it went along the lines of, we noticed that your satellite insurance has expired. Now, how they would know that, I don't know. I think that's just an opening line. And told me how expensive it would be to call an engineer out without satellite insurance. And I said, yes, okay. And gave them my bank details.
The fraudsters persuaded their victims to sign up to a yearly payment of between £70 and £100, with the promise that their satellite box would be covered 24/7.
I mean, £80 might not seem like a lot of money to some people, but when you're a pensioner, it is a lot of money.
In order to appear genuine, the company sent out paperwork to their victims. It was at this point that Carol realised something was wrong.
I went to file the paperwork and realised that I already had perfectly good insurance that hadn't expired. I don't think I've ever felt so embarrassed in my life, really, to think that I could have been taken in. But it really was a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach that I'd been conned.
Sadly, Carol wasn't the only one. In a 2-year period, the callous fake insurance crew netted £500,000.
Anybody who thinks that conning the elderly into giving away their money is a good way of earning a living should think again.
But the net was closing in. Unbeknownst to the scammers, victims had alerted Swansea Trading Standards. They started to investigate and identified the 3 men behind the company: Paul Delamere, Jordan Dimmock, and the boss, Jonathan Stockton. Evidence of organised criminal fraud mounted as more and more victims came forward, and Swansea Trading Standards decided it was time to pay the call centre a visit.
We struggled to get through a locked door. Once we got in through that door, sales staff went and rubbed their name off a board. Some of the staff tried to evade us going down the back stairs. And then when we were there, the fire alarm went off. I went to see the security guard in charge of the building, and he basically told us someone had set a false alarm off on the floor below us.
Once in the property, Trading Standards wanted to get to the hub of the fraudulent activity and needed to access the computers kept behind locked doors. It took a locksmith 3 hours to break in.
We got into the room, our computer forensic examiner looked at the computers and came back to us at a later date after we'd left the premise and told us that someone had remotely accessed that computer and deleted everything and tried to download something called Evidence Eliminator.
The operation had been stopped in its tracks. It was the last Trading Standards would hear from them for a while. Coming up, the fraudsters restart their fake insurance company again, but Trading Standards decide to shut them down once and for all.
This time we done a faster entry warrant where we took the police on entry. Everybody was arrested where they were sat.
It's thought that as many as 1 in 4 people have suffered a personal injury, a figure that won't come as a surprise to the insurance industry, which is seeing a dramatic increase in these types of claims. More than 1 million of these claims come from workplace accidents, like the one that David Ribchester suffered in February 2006. DCI Dave Wood, who heads up the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, worked on the case.
Mr. Ribchester reported to his insurance company that he'd suffered an accident at work. He said he was up a set of ladders that collapsed underneath him, and as a result of the fall, he's injured both his wrists when he hit the ground. And as a result of that accident, he suffered life-changing injuries.
According to David, the lad had fallen on both of his wrists, which he claimed left him unable to do even the most basic tasks.
One was driving a car, two was playing his favourite sport, rugby, and lastly, and perhaps most important of all, he couldn't pick up his small daughter. And this was the worst thing for him, so he told us.
But David's injuries weren't just physical, as John Beadle from Insurers RSA explains.
A further twist was that it was reported that he was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome as a result of the accident.
With such serious physical and emotional damage, David's claim stacked up to a huge sum.
He claimed ultimately for £900,000 or thereabouts in terms of compensation, to compensate for his loss of earnings and for the care that he would need going forward in his life.
It was a massive compensation bill, one which would have taken care of the 31-year-old for the rest of his life.
This case is one of the biggest single instances that IFED have investigated in its operation so far. Almost £1 million going to one person, for him, would almost be like a lottery win.
As with any large insurance claim, the insurers looked into it thoroughly, and they didn't like what they saw.
There came a point of time when we began to doubt the truth around the extent of Mr. Ribchester's alleged injuries and incapacity, and so we began to investigate. And as part of that investigation, we deployed some surveillance.
All seemed fine at first, but then they noticed something which blew his claim out of the water.
It showed a person going normally about their daily life, and there wasn't any apparent incapacity or injury that prevented him leading a normal life.
During the course of the surveillance, Mr. Ribchester was seen driving his car. He told his insurers he couldn't drive a car. He was also seen shopping in a supermarket. Again, he told his insurers he couldn't carry out that task. On Mr. Ribchester's birthday in July 2009, he was actually filmed hosting a barbecue at his home address, during which he erected some garden furniture. He greeted guests with a firm handshake of his right hand. He was seen flipping burgers on the actual barbecue itself, and also several times picking up his young daughter with his supposedly severely injured right hand.
The footage proved that David was lying about his injuries in order to inflate the size of his claim. But the surveillance didn't stop there, and what the police saw next revealed the shocking extent of his fraud.
The biggest nail in Mr. Ribchester's coffin was actually the surveillance footage of him playing rugby at his local club. So there he is, grabbing the ball, gripping it tightly, fending off tackles, charging along the grass turf. Things that he said he couldn't do, would never be able to do for the rest of his days, clearly captured on surveillance footage, looking in quite fine fettle, running across the rugby pitch.
That surveillance footage was, at our request, shown to the medical experts, who, as a result, said that in their opinion that he was grossly exaggerating or making up the level of injury or incapacity that he was suffering from.
Clearly, David was trying it on. Armed with a wealth of footage, the insurers decided to tackle the fraud and pass the case to the police.
IFED detectives arrested Mr. Ribchester at his home address in the northeast of England, and some months later he appeared at the Old Bailey, where he was charged with fraud by false representation. The judge, in fact, said this man was greedy, and he also went on to say that it's a result of greedy men like Mr. Ribchester that other genuine claimants could sometimes be put under scrutiny as a result of his selfish actions.
David Ribchester's foul play had well and truly landed him in the sin bin. For exaggerating his claim, the penalty was 8 months.
During IFED's operation, we seem to come across two different types of fraudsters in this insurance fraud arena. One would be the organised criminals, the gangsters that do it for a living, And the other lot I would describe as greedy people that see an opportunity, potentially a meal ticket or a lottery win like Mr. Ribchester.
Ironically, if Mr. Ribchester had been honest about the extent of his injuries, he would have been legally entitled to about £250,000 compensation. But because he lied, the whole of his claim was thrown out, and he was left with no money, a prison sentence and a criminal record. Still to come, a rude driver's insurance claim hits the skids thanks to CCTV evidence.
There's no evidence of a slow joining of traffic, and as far as the creeping along goes, I'll let you be the judge of that.
And victims of the fake insurance company see justice served.
And how dare they do that to the elderly?
The Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department, or IFED for short, is an insurance scammer's worst nightmare.
There is a dedicated 40-strong unit that work 24/7 hunting down insurance fraudsters.
The team was set up over 2 years ago to crack down on insurance crime in the UK.
Is there anything here that shouldn't be here that we're going to find?
In that time, it's made over 450 arrests and seen over 200 prosecutions.
If it's a fraud, it's in insurance, then it may well come to IFED's attention and IFED will take the necessary action.
Police officers, can you come to the door, please?
Today, DS Mark Forster and his IFED team are on their way to arrest a suspect in what they believe is a case of insurance fraud. It all started when the suspect racked up so many parking fines that bailiffs impounded their car.
She subsequently reported to police that her car has been stolen and also made a claim to the insurance company in relation to the theft of that vehicle.
Mark has deliberately organised an early morning raid so there's more chance of catching the suspect at home. And he's well aware of the challenges that his team could face when they go in to make the arrest.
You're never sure exactly what's behind the door. You can do your intelligence checks to give you a good indication of what you're going to find there and who you're going to find. But until you actually go through that door, you're never sure.
410, Dave.
Yeah, can you show us on the scene, please, CAD 1084?
They arrive at the suspect's address and get into position.
The little one.
Oh, right, okay.
Mark's hoping that the early start means the suspect is more likely to be at home.
Good morning.
And they are.
Police. I'll just speak to you inside, please. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, that fella.
Just one of my colleagues comes in as well.
The cameras stay outside.
So at 5 minutes past 7, I'm arresting you on suspicion of committing fraud by false representation. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm defence if you do not mention when questioned something shall later rely on for. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
With the arrest made, the operation has got off to a good start.
I don't think she was expecting us at all. She was quite surprised. My colleague, when he arrested her, she had no idea what it was about.
But the arrest is only the beginning. The success of the operation relies on finding evidence of the alleged fraud. IFED are searching for paperwork that relates to the vehicle. Luckily, the suspect is proving to be cooperative.
We've asked her, it's basically so we don't have to go through the whole house, where she keeps all her documents, correspondence, and she's indicated to us in her bedroom.
And that's just where they find potential evidence.
This is some of the evidence that we've seized from the property, from the bedroom of the lady we've arrested this morning.
Unusually for the IFED team, the potential evidence in this case is paper-based and doesn't involve phones or computers. Most IFED raids last several hours, but in this case, Mark's thankful that it's been relatively straightforward.
Very happy. It's all gone very smoothly. We're, in and out of the address within sort of 45 minutes. She's now on her way back to the City of London, where she'll be interviewed in relation to the fraud that we believe she's committed.
Mark's pleased with how the day has gone. The arrest has been made, potential evidence has been collected, and the investigation can now move on to the next stage. There's nothing more frustrating than coming home from a hard day's work, turning on the TV, and it's broken. But don't worry. If you've got insurance on it, you'll be sorted. Well, not if you're one of the 7,500 people who were cold called and bullied into buying a bogus maintenance package by Jonathan Stockton and his crew, who'd set up a fake insurance company.
You've just rung up and asked him for an 80-year-old man for a one-off payment of £89 to protect something that you don't even protect already?
Yes, we do.
You do not?
The group targeted elderly and vulnerable people with insurance deals that they didn't want, need, or in some cases already had.
I mean, £80 might not seem like a lot of money to some people, but when you're a pensioner, it is a lot of money.
After a mountain of complaints at Swansea Trading Standards, the team paid the phony operation a visit.
We got into the room, our computer forensic examiner looked at the computers and told us that someone had remotely accessed that computer and deleted everything.
With the fake insurance company closed, Trading Standards thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't long before the complaints started to pour in again. It appeared that the company was still operating.
And at this point we decided the only thing we could do was to raid the company again. And this time we done a faster entry warrant where we took the police. On entry, everybody was arrested where they were sat, not allowing anybody to interfere with any of the evidence that we were going to gather.
This was the largest operation that Swansea had been a part of. It involved 50 police officers, along with various teams from the council. Despite this, the scammers had shredded all paper evidence. But the key to the crime was their calls.
We found call recordings, but those calls certainly helped us a great deal with our investigation.
Well, I don't want that.
Well, you don't want Sky Protect?
No, I don't want Sky Protect.
Right, okay. You know, if you need an engineer out for any particular reason at all,
Yeah.
an engineer will charge you £90 a call-out fee.
Right.
£100 addition, like up to £200 for the box, maybe a bit more for the HD box. Now, with you not having cover, there's nothing we can do about that.
What was perhaps more shocking was that this wasn't just a few fraudsters, but a team of around 20, all knowing that every day, every call was conning an elderly person out of money.
And you had a big sales floor which was populated by all these staff, and it probably they were looking up to 20 staff at some points in the business, and everybody in that business had to be aware what was going on and was implicit in it, and it was all linked and all very loyal.
The audio proved to be the killer piece of evidence that allowed the council to build a case against the scammers. They took Jonathan Stockton and 16 members of his team to court. It was the culmination of a 2-year investigation into a scam that had covered most of Wales and parts of England, dialing in an estimated £500,000. The weight of evidence against them meant that the 3 main players pleaded guilty to a conspiracy to defraud. Jonathan Stockton and Paul Delamere both got sentences of 4 years, and Jordan Dimmond was given 3.5 years. In all, the judge handed down jail terms totaling almost 30 years to 14 people involved in the scam.
When they were sentenced, we felt that this was justice for all those consumers who we either had to speak to or listen to, and the way in which they've been treated. It wasn't really how much that we felt, it was justice had been served for them.
People like Carol, who was a victim of the fraud.
It's like mugging, isn't it? It's mugging over the phone. And you feel just as violated as if they'd hit you on the back of the neck. And how dare they do that to the elderly?
Buses are great. Well, if you haven't got a car. And let's be honest, when you're behind the wheel, the last thing you want to see is this. Being stuck behind a slow-moving bus can be frustrating. But for one driver, he thought it was well behind him, until it allegedly collided with him. Lee Ingram of First Group dealt with the incident.
When the other vehicle driver has submitted his claim, he has stated that he was creeping forward and the bus has just hit him straight in the back of the car and damaged the side of his car at the same time.
But when First Group asked for the bus driver's version of events, he had a completely different take on it.
The bus driver in this case clearly says that he was passing the third-party vehicle when the third party has given him the V sign and then pulled across straight in front of the bus, leaving him no opportunity to avoid a collision.
The two versions didn't add up. It was the claimant's word against the bus driver's. So Lee Ingram turned to his fail-safe backup, CCTV. The footage clearly supports the bus driver's account. Keep your eye on the red car on the left.
The first thing you notice from the footage is that the third party has clearly made up a set of circumstances to tell his solicitor in order to pursue his claim. There's no evidence of a slow joining of traffic, and as far as the creeping along goes, I'll let you be the judge of that.
The red car can be seen driving at a normal speed. But from the camera on the side of the bus, the car pulls in front of it, cutting it up and clipping it on the front.
CCTV footage is very important in circumstances such as this.
The footage shows the car driver wasn't telling the truth, but it also revealed something else as well. To add further insult, the driver just did that. Oh, hang on a minute, what was that? 2 fingers? Oh no, it's just the one. Well, that's a bit rude.
There doesn't really seem to be any logical reason as to why the other party should be so angry towards a bus driver. I know there are situations where some people just do not like buses getting in front of them in traffic. I think this is a particular case where the other driver has just decided to not let the bus through and has almost stuck his fingers up in a V sign to say, "No way, mate, you're not coming past me," and then decided to go for it in front of the bus. The claimant in this instance is clearly used to getting in his own way. On this occasion, he has tried to muscle in on a 12-ton vehicle, which might not have been the wisest of moves.
And his offensive behaviour didn't stop there.
After the accident, the third party was very abusive towards the bus driver, constantly using foul language. He claimed to have a sore neck and yet refused to have an ambulance called for him.
Despite this, he later submitted a claim for multiple personal injuries. But surprisingly, nothing for damage to the car. Because, as the CCTV showed, there was none. His motivation seemed to be personal gain.
He was heard to say that he was intending to get a new car out of this incident.
The only actual damage was a small scratch to the side of the bus. The CCTV proved that the claimant wasn't owed compensation because he'd never actually been injured. In fact, it showed that he owed them for the damage to the bus.
The claimant did not receive any compensation arising from this incident. We did, however, recover the £34.50 cost of repairing our vehicle.
More proof that it's better to keep both hands firmly on the wheel when driving. Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us over £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million every day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing 15 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's the subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a highly skilled, dedicated police unit, they're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, the pedestrian who forgot her Green Cross code and tried to cash in on it.
She's looked both ways,
No, that's not true at all.
The police's insurance fraud enforcement department catch a suspected fraudster with his trousers down.
Well, I've no pants on. Don't need to get dressed.
And the jaw-dropping lengths that one woman went to in her bid to scam insurance companies.
In my 2.5 years in charge of IFED, this is the most despicable and shocking case I've come across by some distance.
Nowadays, we're bombarded by adverts from claims management companies telling us that we could be owed a small fortune in the event of an accident. This has led to a boom in claims for personal injuries, and while many of these are legitimate, some are not.
I think that some people are under the misguided conception that wherever there's an incident, then there is a claim to be made. That's not true at all. In order to be successful in a claim in this country, you've got to prove that someone was negligent.
But proving negligence isn't as easy as some people think, and public transport operator First Group find themselves battling dubious claims on a weekly basis. One particular incident which raised such a claim occurred on a busy bus route in central London.
We have a woman alleging that she's looked left, she's looked right, she's seen no traffic coming, so she's assumed it's safe to cross. She stepped out and the bus has hit her.
A pedestrian versus a bus is only ever going to have one winner. Now, as any youngster with good road sense will tell you, before crossing the road, it's vital that you stop, look both ways, listen and look again. And although the pedestrian in this case claims she did exactly that, First Group weren't so sure.
The one thing that would suggest that's not true is if you look right, you would see a 15-ton bus coming towards you, and you should be able to therefore stop and not get run over.
Historically, cases like this would be one person's word against another. But thanks to modern technology, it's becoming easier to find out what really happened.
She's given her version of events, the driver will give his version of events. The one factual piece of evidence we have is the CCTV footage itself. The camera doesn't lie, it shows a true picture of what actually happened, and it's an invaluable source of evidence.
Most buses have at least 10 CCTV cameras, and although they're primarily used for passenger and driver safety, they can also be very handy when it comes to settling claims like this.
When we've looked at the CCTV footage, we're expecting to see a woman stepping out from between two vehicles, having looked both ways, and stepping out just not having seen the bus for some reason.
It sounds reasonable enough, but is it what really happened?
You'll see the lady suddenly appear from between the two vehicles. She doesn't look, she just looks left, steps out. There's no attempt to look right.
The woman steps out between a stationary sightseeing bus and a trailer. The double-decker is so large she can't see the other bus coming her way. And to make matters worse, she doesn't even look.
If you're going to step out from between two vehicles, your view's going to be very poor. You need to make sure that you can see what's coming before you step out.
The driver has no time to react, and as quick as he's on the brakes, the woman is hit by the front corner of the bus, throwing her up in the air.
There is no way he's going to avoid hitting her when she steps out when the bus is that close, and the footage shows exactly that.
From the driver's perspective, it looks like a devastating blow. But the multiple cameras positioned at various points on the bus give a clear picture of exactly how severe the collision was and what happened next.
You can see the force of the impact has driven her to the ground and she's rolled underneath the flatbed truck, but she's out and up pretty quickly.
As severe as the impact looked, thankfully the woman wasn't seriously hurt. But it wasn't long before First Group received a claim for her injuries.
The injuries that were subsequently claimed for compensation from us were probably more to do with her hitting the ground than actually the impact with the bus itself. She's got some minor cuts and bruises, the ever-present whiplash claim. She's got a main injury to her knee, which has necessitated her having to use crutches for up to 6 weeks. Some 9 months after the accident, she's still urgent to be suffering from her injuries.
Incidents like this are nothing new, and First Group find themselves dealing with claims like this on a weekly basis.
In light of the advertising that goes on today, and it's made quite clear how much you can get from a simple slip or a trip or a fall at work, it's probably reasonable to assume that this lady may have assumed she can get £3,000 to £3,500 for this accident. So You could argue, why wouldn't she put a claim in? I would say because it's an out-and-out lie, to be honest, but that's just my opinion.
It may sound harsh, but it's important to remember that the woman alleged to have looked both ways and is claiming that any negligence lies with the driver. Such allegations mean that in cases like this, it isn't just the injured parties who can be the victims.
What happens to the drivers that are confronted with these things on a daily basis? I watched the CCTV footage back on this one. You can see the horror and the general anguish in the driver's face. He just looks horrified that this has happened. And these sorts of things, when drivers are confronted with these sorts of situations, this wasn't even a serious injury. Had it been more serious, some of the drivers can walk away with serious emotional scars. It can affect their confidence, the way they drive, and yeah, it can have a big knock-on effect.
Although this case was a genuine accident, the woman tried to exaggerate her claim. But there are some people out there who will create an accident with the sole purpose of cashing in. Someone who has first-hand experience of this despicable crime is bus driver Maxine Wild, who found herself at the centre of a number of fraudulent claims after a motorist deliberately collided with her bus.
I love my job. I really do, and I want to keep on doing it. But when this incident happened, I thought, that's it. I finally found my dream job after 30 years of looking, and it's going to be taken away from me. I was a little bit unsure of whether I'd still have a job at the end of it all. They think it's victimless, but it isn't. They don't care if I'm unemployed. They don't care if I have sleepless nights.
Thanks to CCTV footage, Maxine's case was thrown out. But what about our pedestrian who appeared to forget her Green Cross code and then exaggerated her claim? Armed with video evidence of the whole incident, First Group felt they had a watertight case against the woman's claims.
Upon reviewing the CCTV footage in this particular case, we've then revisited the lady's statement. She's trying to cross the road, that's true. She's been hit by a bus, this is also true. She's looked both ways? No, that's not true at all, and the footage clearly shows she hasn't, so we've gone back to her solicitors and we've said the statement given by your client just doesn't match up with what's on the CCTV footage. Here's a copy, tell us what you think. We haven't heard since.
Given the video evidence, it's hardly surprising that this case has stalled. And Lee is keen to point out that injured parties are only entitled to compensation when they are not at fault.
The customer care side of First Group, which I'm involved in, very much just want to deal with the genuine claims as quickly as possible and for the right amount, and that's what we're really there for. When we have incidents like this, it slows procedures down because we have to investigate claims that are not genuine. Her statement was not true, and although I feel very sorry for anyone that's been hit by a bus, regardless of how it's happened, it doesn't mean that we're just going to keel over and pay every single claim, because we can only really pay cases where we are negligent, and in this case, it's just not.
So if there's a lesson to be learned from a case like this, it's that when there's no blame, there's no claim. Still to come, an insurance company turns the tables and reclaims what's rightfully theirs.
He's got no idea that we're coming to recover the vehicle today, which is our weapon, if you like, the element of surprise.
And one of the most shocking cases that IFED has ever dealt with.
And it was one fraud after another fraud after another fraud.
When insurance fraud hit an all-time high, the City of London Police decided that enough was enough and formed a specialist unit with the sole aim of tackling the fraudsters head-on.
IFED is a dedicated team that deals with insurance fraud. Whatever insurance policy there is out there, we investigate it.
It's 6:45 a.m. and this team of IFED officers are heading up north to investigate a suspected case of car insurance fraud. A man Taylor is heading up the operation.
We're hoping to find any computer equipment or any genuine documentation which we can use as evidence later once we get to the interview stage. It's going to be slightly more difficult than dealing with a standard case. He's gone to lengths to cover up his tracks.
Every raid has its own risks and obstacles, and today is no exception.
The property itself we've looked at from research, and we believe to be large enough, a big enough property that it's going to take a few of us to secure the property. That's why we've got uniform attended to assist us with securing the property and securing a person once we arrive there.
When the team arrive at the location, the property is so large that a man does a quick recce to find the front door.
I think it's maybe the property. I'm just gonna have a quick look up that driveway.
As the building is unlit and pretty large, it takes the team a few moments to work out the layout.
Pardon? Ah.
But nothing deters the IFED team, and soon they're at the front door, ready to give their suspect an early morning wake-up.
Hello, you Mr.
Yeah.
We have a warrant to search the premises.
The team are in, although unsurprisingly, not everyone is particularly pleased to see them.
Oh dearie me, I can't believe this. I've never had out like this in my bloody life.
After a dressing down by a surprised family member, a man arrests the suspect and explains the implications this will have on his privacy.
Do you want me to get dressed?
Yeah, what I will do is, because you're under arrest, what I'll ask is that one of the uniform officer will stay with you just while you get dressed. He's
Well, I've no pants on. So
yeah, I know. He's not going to stand there and watch or anything like that. But he's got to be with you whilst you're under arrest because you're under arrest.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll go get dressed.
Once arrested, you are never out of sight of the police officers, regardless of what you are or are not wearing. And it's not uncommon for suspects to try and destroy incriminating evidence. Meanwhile, DI Dom Parkin explains to the suspect's family that their cooperation could make the process a lot easier.
Rather than us searching the house from top to bottom, we could say to him, we are here to search for documentation for the insurance claim.
Yeah.
If you want to show us the drawer where it is,
right,
we're satisfied that that's what we need, then that may conclude our search. But if he says, search the house, then we'll search the house.
Okay.
We'll be over that forklift thing.
Keen not to have the entire house searched, the suspect agrees to show a man and the team where he keeps the documentation that they're after.
Do you want me to go get it for you? Do you want me to come with you?
Yeah, if you can show us where we're going. Is it within this house?
No, it's outside. There's nothing in this house.
Alright, we'll come with you to the office and you can show us to the offices.
The suspect is giving his full cooperation and is claiming to have all of the information a man needs in one briefcase. But of course, IFED never take what suspects say at face value, and there's absolutely zero chance of them leaving it at that.
So everything business related would be in this office, and that is your work computer.
Yeah, if you want to take the work computer, that's fine. Yeah, you'll just crack on and see what you want.
So far, we've located our subject, so we'll be looking at completing our search, seizing what we need to seize, and then taking it for him to be interviewed. I'll put that down as ATO2.
To be sure of building the strongest case possible, the team are seizing anything that could provide the evidence they need.
We'll take this, and then there's a possibility that we might even have a trace of him producing a document on Word.
But computers and laptops aren't the only things that can leave an incriminating trail.
What we can do with the phones is we can download the data from them, and we can get any text message, phone calls, anything like that that's relevant from the phones themselves.
Before leaving, the office is given a final sweep for any more evidence that might help secure a conviction.
Well, looks like it's daylight.
Starting day.
Several hours after arriving, the search is complete. But for a man and his team, this is just the beginning. The good news, though, is that things are looking promising.
Now, our intention is to go back to the police station, refer back to the exhibits that we've seized, and we can then use them for interview once we've got him back at the police station.
As anyone who drives a car knows, being without it can be a real pain in the neck. So in the event of a crash, a complimentary hire car can be a real lifesaver. And thanks to legislation, it's something that insurance policyholders can take advantage of.
The credit hire industry works in that if somebody has an accident in a car and it's not their fault, they're entitled in law to a replacement like-for-like car. So if, for example, you have an estate car where you need to put a dog in the back, a pet or a pushchair, you're entitled to a replacement like-for-like car.
Sounds great, doesn't it? But of course, the idea of a free set of wheels also appeals to fraudsters. After all, why pay for your own when you can use someone else's? To combat this threat, insurance companies have dedicated teams tasked with keeping a watchful eye on their hire cars. Neil Thomas heads up the Asset Protection Unit at Accident Exchange.
We have about 3,000 vehicles, mainly prestige vehicles. So our responsibility is to make sure those vehicles, when they're out on hire, are fully protected, are being used effectively, they're not getting involved in things we don't want to get involved in. So we're really in charge of making sure the assets are safe and make sure people don't disappear with very valuable cars.
Sadly, sometimes cars do go missing, which is exactly what happened when one of Accident Exchange's customers submitted a claim for crash damage to his pride and joy.
We replaced his car, which is an Aston Martin, with one of our Bentley cars, which is a Bentley GT Continental, which is around the same value.
So far, so good. But when Accident Exchange began to investigate the claim, they soon discovered something a little odd.
The collision was between an Aston Martin and a third-party vehicle. Our inquiries revealed that the client owned both vehicles, so it's potentially a staged accident. This aroused our suspicion to say it's probably a fraudulent claim.
An investigation revealed the accident had been staged. But strangely enough, it was at this time that the policyholder went off the radar. After several months of unsuccessfully trying to contact him, the Asset Protection Unit resorted to what's known in the trade as a snatchback.
Doing a snatchback, so getting the car back from the client, is the last resort for us.
As the name suggests, a snatchback is where the rightful owners of the vehicle use a spare set of keys to take it back. But doing so can be a risky business.
It was a rural location, so out in the country, a nice house. We went quite early in the morning, which is probably the best time to go. The interesting thing for our guys that turned up was there was a rather large Rottweiler and it was all fenced off, so we couldn't actually gain access to the property. But the Rottweiler certainly woke us up that time in the morning.
The guard dog may have added a bit of bite to proceedings, but it didn't stop the team from reclaiming the Bentley.
This particular case went to court because we could prove that it was a staged accident. The guy that owned the Aston Martin had breached the terms of his condition, the contract, so we needed to take him to court to recover our costs.
For his troubles, the policyholder was ordered to repay costs totalling £50,000. But cases like this are becoming increasingly common, and today the Asset Protection Unit are on their way to carry out another snatchback. It's early morning, and Ian and Tony are a long way from home. They've been on the road for almost 4 hours, but are now just minutes away from the location.
He's got no idea that we're coming to recover the vehicle today, which is our weapon, if you like, the element of surprise.
They might be the rightful owners, but snatching cars can still be a hazardous business.
Our main concern is to, at all costs, avoid confrontation. You can never account for what may happen once you get there.
But an irate customer isn't the only thing the guys need to worry about.
In the past, it has happened that although the client has obtained the vehicle fraudulently, he will report it stolen. And there have been instances in the past where we've actually been pulled up by the police and they've thought that we've actually stolen the vehicle, when in actual fact we're the lawful owners and we're just recovering our property.
To avoid any confusion today, Ian and Tony have alerted the local police about what they're doing.
The vehicle should be up here somewhere. We'll just start having to look and identify if we can see any grey Vauxhall insignias.
Quite closely parked together, aren't they? I hope I can get it out if he's here. The horse is there. That's it.
That's it.
Right.
Having found the car, Ian has to act quickly. There's no room for error. And now definitely isn't the time for stalling it. guys are safely away.
We've got the vehicle. It appears undamaged at the moment.
Ian and Tony pull into a garage to give the car a quick once-over and check there isn't anything illegal on board.
There's a lot of property in there, isn't there?
Apart from a load of junk on the back seat, the car appears to be okay.
Our priority now is to get the vehicle back to Birmingham as soon as possible. We'll try and make contact with the client just to let him know that we have recovered the vehicle and we're sending his property back to him. I'm sure it won't be the last one that we'll be doing, but yeah, a very successful mission.
Just 2 weeks after its inception, IFED dealt with a case that would eventually highlight the shocking depths that some fraudsters would sink to. The initial report was of a young woman called Emma Fischer, who was suspected of submitting fraudulent insurance claims. DC Alex Cooley headed up the investigation.
We went up to Walsall and Emma Fischer was arrested in relation to 7 fake household contents insurance claims. Time and time again, she was claiming for the same items. But she told us at that stage that the frauds were limited to a total of 7.
Even after 2 years of operations and 450 arrests, head of IFED David Wood can still clearly remember the sequence of events that surrounded Emma Fischer.
We hoped that encounter with the police and with IFED would be her one and only dealings with us.
Will that be long enough?
We were sadly mistaken.
3 months later, IFED were dealing with a number of suspected fraudulent claims when they noticed a familiar name on the case notes.
This time, we could see the extent of her offending. It was over a long period of time, was quite systematic and well thought out. It was different to the offending we'd seen before.
It was clear that IFED were dealing with a serial fraudster. But what was disturbing were the lengths that Emma Fischer was prepared to go to in the hope of cashing in. For starters, there were multiple claims on pet insurance policies, some of which were for dogs that didn't even exist.
Emma Fischer was typically claiming that she had purchased a new Chihuahua and that Chihuahua had subsequently either been stolen or it had gone astray. She would substantiate that with emails pretending to be a pet breeder to prove the original purchase of the dogs. She was quite imaginative. The claim was generally for the entire price of a replacement dog.
But IFED soon discovered that claiming on phantom pooches was just the tip of the iceberg. Because when it came to Emma Fischer and fake claims, no insurer was safe.
She moved into mobile phone insurance, where she claimed that she was mugged and that she'd lost her mobile phone. She pretended that she had been defrauded on her bank account, typically claiming that, again, she'd been robbed and that her card had been misused. She also got involved in a couple of more specialist lines of insurance, including, for example, income protection insurance, so where she claimed that she'd had a job, which was a lie, and that she had subsequently been made unemployed and she was claiming for an indemnity to cover her lost earnings.
Defrauding insurance companies for a bit of cash with phantom pets and made-up muggings is one thing, but IFED's investigation soon highlighted that Emma Fischer was anything but an average fraudster. In fact, she had even used false claims to bag herself a house adapted for a disabled person. That's right, a house.
In order to obtain the disabled adapted house, Emma Fischer sent an email to the housing authority pretending to be a doctor. The doctor had the fake name of Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed, in this supposed email, was saying how Emma Fischer was suffering from terminal cancer and needed use of a wheelchair. And then in the same claim, Emma Fischer also pretended to be a social worker and emailed claiming that Emma Fischer had been the victim of domestic violence.
With no moral scruples, Emma Fischer even claimed she had cancer. In fact, there were no depths that she wouldn't stoop to.
Not only did she get the disabled adapted house under false pretences, but within the first couple of weeks of her tenancy, she made a false public liability claim against the housing group. And what she did was she pretended that she'd fallen over some debris in the garden, which she'd alleged had been left by the housing authority. In fact, on that occasion, she had taken an image of a bruised leg from Google and submitted it as evidence of her own false injury. And as part of that claim, Emma Fischer alleged that she'd suffered a miscarriage as a result of the fall, which was extremely serious and again turned out to be totally untrue. It became clear just how manipulative Emma Fischer was prepared to be. Obviously meant that in my investigation I had to take everything she told me with a very large degree of caution.
To you and me, that's a very large pinch of salt. After further investigation, IFED had quite a dossier on Emma Fischer, and the findings were staggering to say the least.
Our investigation revealed that over a period of almost 4 years, Emma Fischer had submitted 65 fraudulent insurance claims.
Incredibly, during that time, Emma Fischer only got away with £8,500. But it was the incredible lies she told that made her case stand out.
In my 2.5 years in charge of IFED, this is the most despicable and shocking case I've come across by some distance. We've not encountered this before, that someone would pretend they've got a terminal illness, would pretend they've been the victim of domestic violence, or would pretend that they're actually had a miscarriage. But Emma Fischer did each of those 3 things.
It was clear to me on listening to the phone recordings of her deception and to reading the various emails that she'd sent that she seemed to be fully immersed in the roles that she was assuming. She was almost like a method actor. I think she could be quite convincing.
But Emma Fischer had given her final performance. In July 2012, she was arrested by IFED detectives and charged with 22 counts of fraud. When she appeared at Wolverhampton Crown Court, she received a 22-month prison sentence.
I believe Emma Fischer's crime spree developed almost into a habit, and she effectively couldn't stop herself. And it was one fraud after another fraud after another fraud.
Insurance fraud in the UK has hit epidemic levels. It's costing us over £2 billion every year. That's almost £6 million every day. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injuries, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing, and every year it's adding over £50 to your insurance bill. But insurers are fighting back, exposing 15 fake claims every hour. Armed with covert surveillance systems,
that's a subject out the vehicle,
sophisticated data analysis techniques, and a highly skilled dedicated police unit, they're catching the criminals red-handed.
Just don't lie to us.
All those con men, scammers, and cheats on the fiddle are now caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Coming up, surveillance footage scuppers and HGV drivers claim for a truckload of compensation.
Without the surveillance, we would have faced a claim into the many hundreds of thousands of pounds, and so it would have provided Mr. Doyle with a lottery win in compensation.
A bone-crunching fall.
You can feel every single hit as he's falling down the stairs. It was pretty harrowing to watch.
And door-to-door inquiries, IFED style.
It's police, can you open up? We will put the door in.
When it comes to catching someone out, there's nothing like a bit of damning video evidence, which is exactly what proved to be the undoing of HGV driver Lee Doyle after he grossly exaggerated a personal injury claim.
Mr. Doyle alleged that his accident happened when he was walking across his employer's yard and tripped over and fell and banged his lower back on a raised curbstone.
Injuries to the spine can be very serious, and in severe cases can leave victims with numerous ongoing problems. When the insurance company received Lee Doyle's claim, it appeared that he was suffering from every back complaint in the book.
The injuries that he was left with was a very stiff lower back. He had sciatic type symptoms with dead legs that meant he couldn't walk very far. Whenever he did walk, he had to use a walking stick that he couldn't bend or lift or carry. And in particular, he couldn't sit still for very long periods, which obviously affected his job as an HGV driver.
With a list of complaints as long as that, you'd think that the doctor would be able to diagnose the problem in a heartbeat. But the specialist who examined Mr. Doyle was left scratching his head.
Unfortunately for Mr. Doyle, the orthopaedic surgeon couldn't find any reason for the nature of the injuries that he said he was suffering from. And because of that, he suggested referral on to a pain management consultant.
Unsurprisingly, the combination of Lee Doyle's supposed symptoms and an orthopaedic consultant that couldn't find anything wrong with him led the insurance company to suspect foul play. So they referred the case to their solicitors, BLM.
We had real concerns about Mr. Doyle's claim simply because it didn't add up. Somebody who'd had such a very straightforward accident of tripping and falling, Mr. Doyle said that he was significantly disabled. For example, he couldn't walk more than 25 yards. He needed a walking stick to get about. And when his own expert couldn't find an explanation for the symptoms he was describing, we thought it merited further investigation.
With Lee Doyle claiming his injuries were so severe he could no longer continue working as a lorry driver, he wanted his employer's insurers to cough up some cash.
He'd calculated his loss of earnings at £55,000. There were other incidental losses, additional help that he'd had around the home for DIY and gardening. The important factor for us was that Mr. Doyle said he would find it impossible to go back to his earlier job. And so his future loss of earnings could well have been into the hundreds of thousands of pounds.
But his claim for lost income was just the beginning, as Lee Doyle had a list of costs that was even longer than his string of injuries, taking the total claim to around £500,000.
He also claimed for travel expenses to various medical appointments and strangely even to his nan's house because he said that he couldn't shower at home, so had to go to her house to shower. He claimed for the additional care and assistance that his partner had provided him in getting him up out of bed in the morning and helping him dress in the morning. He'd claimed for additional help that he'd had looking after his fish. Mr. Doyle's case was rather extreme in that there were some very strange items of claim.
Faced with a potentially huge payout, but still not convinced that this was a legitimate claim, BLM arranged for Mr. Doyle to see a pain management consultant and a neurologist. But that's not all they did.
Because of the concerns that we had about the claim generally, we arranged for covert surveillance to be undertaken. The difficulty with that is that sometimes the surveillance operatives can be sitting there and not see anything at all. And so, because we'd arranged medical appointments, we knew where Mr. Doyle would be on a particular day at a particular time.
With the injuries that Lee Doyle was claiming to be suffering from, BLM were expecting the footage to show a man unsteady on his feet and who needed help to perform even the most basic movements. And as he arrived for and left his medical appointments, that's precisely what they did see. Case closed? Not quite.
Some of the surveillance we obtained of Mr. Doyle, you wouldn't believe that it was the same person that you read about in the medical reports. We're able to watch him going into a medical assessment, walking in a very disabled manner with a walking stick, presenting himself in chronic pain. When we eventually got the medical report back, he had told the expert that he had quite serious physical difficulties. What we saw Mr. Doyle do later in the day was simply amazing. What he'd said on paper, where he couldn't walk for more than 25 yards without a walking stick, we were able to disprove that, showing that he was walking his dog without any difficulty for over an hour. He said that he couldn't bend at the waist and lift things off the floor, but surveillance footage showed that he was lifting without any real difficulty at all.
But the most shocking footage was captured just 4 hours after Doyle had hobbled his way into a medical examination. In it, we see him hoisting heavy concrete slabs above his head onto a garage roof. Steady on now, Lee. Mind your back, son.
His evidence was that he couldn't drive, yet he was able to drive his own 4x4 vehicle without any apparent discomfort at all. So everything that we were being told simply wasn't borne out by the surveillance footage that we were presented with.
The video evidence proved beyond doubt that Lee Doyle was grossly over-exaggerating his claim, happy to play the role of the weak and wounded in order to receive a bumper payout. but it was a performance that BLM weren't buying.
Once we had collated all of the surveillance evidence and we'd had the opportunity of having Mr. Doyle examined by our experts, we were waiting for court proceedings to be issued. That was really the last chance that Mr. Doyle had to come clean. We didn't know whether he would be honest in his presentation and say that he has tried to work, that he does have good days or bad days, that he is capable of doing some physical activity. When proceedings were eventually issued, he maintained that he was chronically disabled, that he hadn't worked since the date of the accident. It was unlikely he was ever going to be able to go back to his former job, and the claim that he presented in financial terms was very significant, into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. Our only response to that had to be that we disclosed all of our medical evidence and all of our surveillance evidence and pointed out that he'd been caught out.
Since his accident, Mr. Doyle had claimed around £25,000 in disability benefits. So, upon hearing about the exaggeration of his claim, the Department of Work and Pensions had a few questions of their own.
A separate investigation was undertaken by the Department for Work and Pensions through their fraud unit. We understand that Mr. Doyle's benefits were stopped immediately when the investigation was started.
Doyle was ordered to repay almost £25,000, but bogus disability benefits weren't the only thing he had taken away from him.
We understand that he tried to tender his resignation. We were informed by the employer that his resignation wasn't accepted, and so we understand that a process of gross misconduct was pursued and that eventually Mr. Doyle was dismissed.
BLM's investigations had scuppered what could have been a fraudulent claim in the region of £500,000.
Without the surveillance, we think we would have faced a claim into the many hundreds of thousands of pounds, and so it would have provided Mr. Doyle with a lottery win in compensation.
Instead, Lee Doyle was offered and accepted a £10,000 settlement, which is what BLM felt was the honest portion of his claim. But that didn't even cover all of his legal costs. He was now out of pocket and unemployed. However, if this case had been resolved just a year later, then things could have ended much more seriously.
I think Mr. Doyle is a very fortunate man for getting the level of compensation that we offered. Times have changed, thankfully, since Mr. Doyle put his claim in, and the way of the law now, we wouldn't actually be making any offers at all. In fact, we'd be looking to pursue Mr. Doyle for contempt of court, and which may lead to a prison term.
Still to come, a nasty tumble. But did he slip or did he trip?
Obviously, it's very sad when someone gets hurt, but is he entitled to make a claim?
And IFED treat another suspected fraudster to one of their special wake-up calls.
Police, open up! What they're going to do is they're going to come round with the entry team and gain entry that way. Not the way we like to do it, but it's leaving us no option.
In January 2012, the police joined the fight against insurance fraud by forming an elite squad known as IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
IFED is a dedicated team that deals with insurance fraud. Whatever insurance policy there is out there, we investigate it.
There is a dedicated 40-strong unit that work 24/7 hunting down insurance fraudsters.
IFED has made over 450 arrests and saved millions of pounds in fraudulent insurance claims, money which ultimately goes back in our pockets. From now on, fraudsters need to watch their backs.
We are out there in numbers. You might get a nasty knock on your door in the morning if you commit this type of fraud.
With almost £400 million a year being lost through car insurance fraud, it's something that the officers of IFED have found themselves dealing with on a regular basis. And one of the biggest problems they encounter are crashes that have been instigated with the sole intention of making money.
Crash for cash involves staged or induced accidents. It's generally organised by people that know each other, and a typical example would be what's known as a slam-on, where a vehicle will slam its brakes on with the sole purpose of causing the vehicle behind to drive into it and then make a claim as a result of that accident.
During their first year of operation, IFED dealt with a crash for cash case, which hit the headlines.
This case involves two families from the Birkenhead area in Liverpool who reported that they're involved in a road accident in the Wirral area in March 2011.
It all seems fairly standard so far. So what was the problem?
The claim involved a road accident at a set of traffic lights where a BMW and a Rover was said to be in a collision. Within these two vehicles were 7 occupants that belonged to 2 separate families. And as a result of the accident, all members then submitted claims for personal injury, damage to the vehicles and vehicle recovery costs. And all told, those claims totalled £77,000.
At first glance, this was a classic shunt between 2 cars at the lights. But as the insurance company began to process the claims, it became clear that this was anything but an ordinary accident.
It wasn't so much the value of the claim that raised the alarm, it was the inconsistency in some of the detail provided by the claimants to the insurers that caused them to make a referral to IFED for further investigation.
By the time the case was handed over to IFED, forensic engineers had established that the damage to the cars didn't match up to the version of events on the claim form. And as if that wasn't dodgy enough, the insurance company had also discovered that members of the 2 families already knew each other and were friends on a social networking site.
This was clearly pre-planned and organised on a large scale. The value of the claims is £77,000, so that shows the level of planning and work that went into this crime.
After some investigations of their own, it wasn't long before IFED made their move.
IFED sent a team of detectives up to the Birkenhead area and effected the arrest of all 7 suspects. They were all charged and sent to court where they were convicted of fraud offences. So the main offenders, Kenneth Nash and Darren Gallimore, both received custodial sentences 12 months each in prison.
Nash, Gallimore and their accomplices thought they could pull the wool over the insurance company's eyes and pocket a small fortune in the process. But they were sorely mistaken.
It should send out the message: if you don't want to get arrested, if you don't want to go to prison, if you don't want to get a criminal record, then don't commit insurance fraud.
Crash for cash doesn't just affect insurance companies though. One tactic that fraudsters use is to hire cars, crash them, and then cash in on personal injury claims. Someone who knows all too well what impact this type of crime can have is Tony Moore, who owns and runs a car rental company.
The effect on these cash for crash accidents to our company from a financial point of view are immense. Obviously, it just pumps up the insurance. Pumping up insurance means we have to put our prices up, which obviously affects our business. 2 years ago, we have over £200,000 worth of claims. That obviously has a knock-on effect on our premium the following year. It's immense.
Tony has first-hand experience of how a scam like Crash for Cash can hit a business's books. But as an employer, he also knows there's a greater cost to these crimes.
Additionally to that, if ever the insurance companies turn around and said, look, you know, we're not insuring you, then we shut the doors and we all go home, and I've got 46 people made redundant, all caused by somebody trying to rip you off cash for crash.
For now, Tony's business is managing to survive. But the threat of Crash for Cash is a serious concern.
It's not, as people think, a victimless, it's just money. It isn't money, it's people's lives.
With the likes of IFED clamping down and fighting back against those who see car insurance as a way to make a fast buck, Tony has some words of warning.
The message to those people out there that want to do this is, if we get a sniff of it, we'll go all the way to try and prove it. And if we prove it, we won't just say, no, we're not paying you. We will push and push and push for a prosecution. And the courts are starting to take it serious now, and we're talking now incarceration.
As Tony rightly says, this is now a crime with serious consequences. The good news is that the likes of you and I are starting to benefit from the work of units like IFED, because in 2013, the money saved from Crash for Cash scams reduced car insurance premiums by 12%. Although as far as IFED's concerned, they're only just getting started.
The Insurance Fraud Bureau estimates that the cost to the insurance industry is £392 million per year from Crash for Cash scams. So I mean, that's clearly a huge amount of money, and it is an area that we're putting a lot of resources into to tackle it. And I'd like to think that with the results that we're getting and the impact we're making, that we're well on the way to targeting this type of criminality and in the future I'd like to think it will drop.
Just like lightning, you never know when disaster might strike. But thanks to the boom of personal injury claims, some accidents can have a silver lining in the form of a cash payout. In 2013, public transport operator First Group dealt with a claim from a gentleman who was making his way down the stairs at one of their train stations, when suddenly everything went horribly wrong.
When you come across claims like this, the first thing you normally think of when you see the injury is that's going to hurt, and seeing the footage just hammers that home. It's never nice to see anyone get injured in any way, and although you don't know what injuries he sustained, you can feel every single hit as he's falling down the stairs. It's not nice, and I do feel sorry for the gentleman concerned.
Thankfully, there were a number of people on hand to help the man out, although it was later discovered that the fall was every bit as bad as it looked.
The injuries sustained were quite nasty. He's got some minor bruising, but his main injury is actually a fracture to his knee, and that has got to hurt. It goes into the knee joint. It's very painful to walk on after, but at the time, yeah, he must have been in excruciating pain.
Even though it was a genuine accident, it wasn't long before First Group received a claim from the man's solicitors.
This gentleman alleged that he'd slipped when he'd got to the halfway point coming down the stairs. People don't just tend to slip on nothing, so he's assuming that therefore it was our fault. We caused him to fall down the stairs, therefore he's entitled to compensation for his rather nasty injuries.
If First Group were at fault, then the kind of payout that the man could have been looking at for injuries as severe as this certainly wasn't an amount to be sniffed at.
Overall, this claim was probably worth in the region of £50,000 for his compensation for his injuries, any potential loss of earnings claim and the legal fees that would have ensued.
So, we have an accident that definitely happened, serious injuries that were sustained, and a claim for around £50,000 compensation. It all sounds fairly standard, but before companies like First Group get out the checkbook, they want to be certain that the blame lies with them first. And that's where CCTV can be an invaluable source of evidence.
I actually don't think that people realise just how much CCTV footage there is at a railway station, and they give very good coverage of the area. People just don't even know they're there.
In this case, there was a CCTV camera in prime position at the top of the stairs, so First Group had a bird's eye view of exactly what happened.
When we receive claims like this, what we're going to look at when we view the footage is, did anyone else have a particular problem walking along that passage of stairways? What ideally you're looking for is people walking down with no problems at all, which would suggest there wasn't a slip hazard, because we just don't know what this gentleman had slipped on.
But when First Group viewed the footage, there didn't appear to be any evidence of a slipping hazard, or indeed any hazard at all.
One of the key points you'll notice from the actual CCTV evidence is the small child actually joyfully skipping down the stairs with no real problems at all, even stepping on the section where the gentleman alleges he slipped. Why then is this chap alleging that he slipped on a step that was previously okay for the people that preceded him? It's clear there was no slipping hazard on those steps, otherwise that small child who had taken a jump at it would have gone flying.
So if the man hadn't slipped like he claimed, then what really did happen?
He puts his left foot down, plants that quite normally. As he goes to step forward with his right foot, it gives way beneath him. This then causes him to stumble forward. At the same time, an unfortunate series of events, his trailing foot then catches the bag he's carrying, which flips him over, and he virtually somersaults down the stairs, striking probably every single step on the way down. And when I watched the footage, I did actually say ouch to myself every time he hit a step. It was, yeah, pretty harrowing to watch.
The severity of the fall had never been in doubt, but with no evidence to suggest that any blame lay with First Group, they didn't feel that the man was entitled to any compensation.
Once we reviewed the footage and realised that what the gentleman was saying was not actually true, we sent off the details of the CCTV to his solicitors and told them that we just weren't going to pay this claim out. They've subsequently closed their file and we've not heard from them since.
Were it not for the CCTV footage, this chap could have walked, or rather limped, all the way to the bank, by claiming there was a slipping hazard that never existed. But situations like this are nothing new, and companies like First Group are finding themselves dealing with more and more people looking to pocket some easy money.
I think the practice from a legal point of view has become so easy to put a claim in on behalf of a person on the off chance that they will receive a payout does encourage some people to submit claims they otherwise wouldn't. Sometimes people know they've had an accident and it's no one's fault, but they're encouraged to try and make a claim for it anyway.
Although this case was dropped with no further action, there have been many instances where fraudulent claimers have been prosecuted and even sent to prison, which begs the question, is it really worth it?
Obviously, it's very sad when someone gets hurt, but is he entitled to make a claim? I think people are very hung up on the fact that if something happens to them, they're entitled to make a claim from someone, and accidents don't just happen. Well, they do. Not everything that happens to you, you can blame someone for. Sometimes it's just an accident.
It's early morning, and two teams of IFED officers have headed up north to carry out a dual raid in a suspected case of car insurance fraud. DC Andy Jackson is the officer in charge of one of the units.
What we plan to do today is we've got two warrants to attend simultaneously two addresses, and what they've done is they've both submitted claims for theft from their vehicles. The value of the thefts is in the region of 16,000. It's believed that they've done it on a number of occasions.
The suspected fraud is thought to have used quotes that were doctored to make them look like receipts. So IFED have got a pretty good idea what they need to find today.
We'll be looking for material which will assist the investigation. We'll be looking at probably computer evidence. If there's a suggestion that they've altered this documentation, they may very well scan that onto a computer.
Today, IFED are being assisted by local police units. So the first stop is the local station for a briefing and to get kitted up.
You just never know who you're going to be dealing with, people's reactions sometimes when they, get arrested, or police turn up at the address, people just react in different ways. So we're just going to make our way there now and see how we get on.
With everything set, the teams roll out.
Hello Mick, you all right? Look, we're literally going to be here in about a minute. Do you want us to go straight in? Yeah, we're in now. We'll go straight to the house. Cheers. All right, bye mate, bye.
After a final phone call with the other IFED team, Andy and the boys go in.
Hello, City Police, open up.
It's not unusual for people wanted by IFED to make a run for it. So, just in case today's suspect decides to do the old backdoor shuffle, local officers cover the exits. Although it looks as if the team may be too late.
It's police, can you open up? We will put the door in.
Word has come through that the suspect at the other raid has been arrested, but no one is able to get hold of the elusive homeowner who lives here. Although with crucial evidence to find, Andy and the team aren't leaving without it.
Right, it looks like what they're going to do is they're going to come round with the entry team, and we'll gain entry that way. Not the way we like to do it, but it's leaving us no option at this time. We've tried all numbers and all other means to get in touch with him, but we've been unsuccessful.
With the front door just moments away from being taken off its hinges, the suspect returns the team's phone call.
Yeah, it's DC Andy Jackson from City London Police. I understand you're on your way back to this address? Excellent, OK. All right, how far are you away? Lovely. All right, we'll see you when you get here, and we'll explain all. Thank you, bye. Right, he's on his way, he's 5 minutes away. And someone's just pulled up.
And sure enough, just a few minutes later, IFED get their man.
You all right? What we'll do is we'll move the car, if you can park your van up on the drive, and then what we'll do, we'll get you to open up, we'll go in, and we'll explain all.
The cameras remain outside the property.
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be arresting you on suspicion of fraud by false representation into those claims. All right? So for that, you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you may later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence.
Although it isn't long before the suspect is brought out and taken away for questioning.
He was a bit surprised to see us here, but he's been cooperative, he's been compliant, and he's willing to assist us in our inquiries.
With the formalities out of the way, the search can begin. Almost half an hour later, Andy and the team emerge from the property, having seized a number of documents, mobile phones, and a laptop, which may contain crucial evidence.
Laptop's always handy because computers can be used to alter documentation. Documentation can be scanned into them, you know, or indeed documentation can be created on them. Due to the fact that he has had access to it, this is something that we can take back to London and review at a later date.
For Andy and the team, the work has only just begun. But after a shaky start, things are looking up.
It's been a good day in the fact that what we needed to do today has been achieved. Our objectives have been achieved. Job done.
The suspects were later interviewed under caution, and the case is still under investigation.